What's up, guys? Thank you for watching Tommy Untamed. We have a great show today with me. Um, Wednesday, March 26th, 2025 at 10:38 a.m. Eastern. Doing a solo show. You can see Helldivers in the background. It's because I pulled something in my my rib just 10 minutes ago. I was meditating and I sat up after 30 minutes. I just felt muscle over my rib. Um, yeah. Uh, it's still freezing in Maine, but because it's so humid, even when it's cold, it's still, you can't open the windows once it gets past a certain level of humidity. So we're in this weird transition period where it's still cold as fuck out, but it gets like sticky if I open the windows. So I have the AC on just to remove that. So what I do is I'll just put a game on the loading screen and the PC acts as a space heater because I don't want to turn on the heater with the air conditioner, and I also don't need to heat the whole apartment, just this room. No show. Well, I guess this is a show. Ooh, ow, ow. Guess this is a show. Um, we'll have shows tomorrow. So I'm trying to incorporate solo rants more as opposed to scrambling. And well, number one, yeah, as opposed to scrambling for guests on days where I don't have them or somebody doesn't show up. But also, I think it's a good tool to have for the same reason. I was just talking on the other night on the game streamer about this. I think game streamers that rely on chat. That's a huge weakness to me. Where it's like, I've had people on the show before, like, let's check chat. And I'm like, no, we're having a discussion. Like, you don't, it's a crutch. It's, it's, it's having all your homies behind you so you don't feel stupid. I'm like, no, just stand up and talk. So I think it's also just a good talent to have or skill to, I don't know, possess, to train, to build, to work, to be able to fill 45 minutes by yourself. And not even traditionally, where sometimes I'll go into a solo rant with a very specific thing on my mind that I'll want to talk about. Um, because that's less solo ranty. That's still more, sounds like there's prep to that. Preparation H on my butt. What, I don't, what did I thought about that and then decided not to say it and then said it. And now I regret it. Kind of, not really. I feel like I should say I regret it, but I don't actually regret it. Um, so. Yeah, let me just see if I can fill 30 to 45 minutes. I saw a meme that I actually like because it's something I do think about a lot. And I don't know what this says about me, but what the fuck is it? Um, where was it? Thought I screenshotted it. Where is it? I thought I screenshotted it this morning. Did I not? Well, it's talking about, huh, guess I really didn't. But yeah, so it's just Tony Soprano, so you're telling me that a supercomputer in the future is reaching back in time to assemble itself piece by piece, when we can already see it taking shape. And when did I could have sworn I saved that this morning. I guess my head is just cooked. No, it was last night technically. And then so the one below that was so basically Satoshi Nakamoto was actually an artificial superintelligence assembling itself from the future. It bootstrapped cryptocurrencies that it could pay users to amass compute for its future self. Um, I said something along those lines. I think that's making it needlessly complex. You don't need to be in the future of reaching back in time to build yourself. No, that's just called foresight. Like that'd be like me being like 2030 Tommy is reaching back in time. He's building himself a platform so that he has a bigger voice in 5 years. I'm like, no, I'm putting in the work now. Future Tommy's reaching back in time so he can do more push-ups. No, I'm just building muscle now because I want the thing in the future. That's making it needlessly complex, and it sounds like you're poisoning the well, but I guess it's such a grand conspiracy. You're not really poisoning the well. Poisoning the well would be like Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK and he was trans. You'd be like, all right, well, now someone's trying to discredit this. Something that large, supercomputer trying to rule the earth, you can't really discredit it. Um, simply. But yeah, one thing I don't know if it's concept or an idea or whatever, but most simply said, the hiding in plain sight. That's always that concept has always interested me the most. Just things you can't really tell are there. I mean, in Raven Rock as well as Command and Control, first by Garrett Graff, second by Eric Schlosser, about the Cold War primarily, the nuclear triad. Talked about these like metal boxes that were on the top of telephone poles that looked like the normal metal cylinders. Transform. I don't know what they are. As early as the 1950s, they had those like ringing every major city in the U.S. hidden in plain sight. You just thought it was a normal, wasn't some like secretive thing behind lock and key. It was just out there. It just looked like it. And they detected like a couple times a second all radiation coming off of like the skyline and not capturing it, but just seeing it. I think there's a difference between capturing it as opposed to just looking at it. And it was there to be able to detect a nuclear flash, which I guess has two distinct X-ray bursts or gamma ray bursts. I don't know, but it's distinct from everything else in the universe, even from a supernova or a hypernova. And then it would transmit it back to the Pentagon. And to me, the number one, there's something so deeply funny about that. That in the 1950s, some 1950s version of Alex Jones, your uncle, he knocked his head in the war, and he's just sitting there with, a fucking can of Bud Heavy, screaming at black people and just going, these telephone bullets, they transmit it right to Eisenhower. And mind you, like pre-internet. And you try like, hey, like, Ma, I don't want to hang out with BJ. Show your uncle some respect. But it was true. It was fucking true. And it's so great because it's not even the conspiracy where say out in Groom Lake, out in Area 51, or under the Pentagon, where it's this thing that almost kind of makes any allegation feasible because it's something you can't physically see. Hey, in that bank vault, there is an alien. Like, how convenient. You're talking about something that we can't get to. But there's just something fucking great about it. I always when I first read that, I instead of there was no awe, it was just I just started laughing. I was like, that is amazing. And but it's hidden in plain sight, or the movie Troll Hunter, which I remember me and my buddy JP watched back in like 2011 or 2012. And there's like different and because I think at the time it was rated the worst movie on Netflix, and it is great. It is fantastic. And the biggest trolls are like ringed by power lines, but you don't really notice because like the huge power lines, like the Eiffel Tower looking things with like the multiple arms. But because the circle is so large, you don't even notice it's a circle. It's going from horizon to horizon, whatever. It's electrical wire. But it was actually like caging in this monster. So I just think the hidden in plain sight stuff's always interesting. It's just a different, I guess, flavor of conspiracy. And I remember in 2020 we were just like just being me. I was on one of the podcasts. I was like just trying to think of like what COVID was. And like first case is like the very first thing was like China's using it to put down the protests in Hong Kong. Remember those like December 2019? Then it was it was they're using it to subvert US and election process. And then it was like we did it as a false flag so we could attack China, but then we never did. And then it's depopulation and then blah 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 whatever. One of my favorite conspiracies is yeah, it's injecting graphene oxide into all of you so that you all become components of a larger antenna grid network in which the Antichrist comes in as a computer program and runs on you as that's maybe my favorite. No, no, no. My favorite is that it causes wha- um what was the fibrous clots? because the demons in Revelation want their food to be chewy, which is you. I love that one. That one's great too. Um, but more seriously, I was just thinking, I was like, what are like the hidden in plain sight things? And when trying to look at something that's hidden in plain sight, I probably should think of like an actual, scientific method to it. But what I do is I just observe. I always say observe what is happening on the surface of the earth and in time. So four dimensions, X, Y, Z, T, right? X, Y, Z, and then T, the fourth dimension. Ow. What the fuck? Just falling apart. Turning into an old man. Oh wait, isn't this ba ba ba? Make sure it's not too loud. No, it's just normal loud. Well, it might be overblown. Hodgkinson yesterday said he couldn't hear me, so I turned up the gain. I have no idea if it's blown out right now. Well, I guess we could just so you just see if yesterday's was right. Whatever. Uh, is I just try to look at what's going on the surface. Did I miss the spot shaving? Damn it! I hate that. I hate when I do that. Yeah, I can hear it. I hate when I do that. Just spiky. Is I just look at what is happening. Like what is happening on the surface of the planet. So it's like what happened after 9/11. You can look at high frequency trading, you can look at, defense contracts, but like what just you don't speak any human language. You don't know the meaning of anything. You're just an alien observing Earth. You see the US move 500,000 to 1 million men with guns and a bunch of war vehicles over to the spot of Earth that is in proximity to Russia, proximity to China loosely, and it is forming a barrier between those two countries and all the fucking oil in the world and all the fucking oil in the world to the US. That's what's happening. That was just the if you just look at everything moving, it's like there's like shitty, you know, like prank video, it's like somebody like in a trash can and they maneuver every couple, minutes and the person's was that getting closer to me? Just look at the trash can movie. I don't care where the trash can's from. I don't care what the office is. I don't care if the dude in the video is trans. What's happening? There's a trash can moving. Well, there's something going on with the trash can then. So what was happening? Everyone went indoors. So and one of my first thoughts, it's really gonna bother me that I didn't shave correctly. How did I mess that up too? I always make sure in the shower too. I like make sure I shaved. But what I have found over the years is like you can't shave twice in a day or you'll get razor burn, for me at least. It is gonna drive me nuts. I'm thinking whether or not I should go shave it. No, because my rib hurts. Everyone goes inside. What comes from that? Or what is there to do with that? Okay, one, isolation. Okay. Martial law. Okay. It's kind of like the whole Jade Helm 2013, 2012 idea. All right. I thought no one's looking up at the sky. Alien invasion. Yeah, but that's if anything, you'd be able to look at the sky more because you're just working from home. You can just go outside. The best I could conclude was that, other than mail-in ballots, the best I could conclude is that there was a multiple order of magnitude jump in the total traffic and gross users of uh, video communication from all types. Uh, And that caused a demand for graphics cards. And all I thought about with that was there is a worldwide bump in graphics cards building, and and thus complementary or parallel CPUs. I think they're doing apartment inspections, so they might come in here at some point, in which case I'll just minimize this for whatever 10 minutes. Um, and I didn't think of it. I didn't really know. I just read the book Gorgon Stare about like video mapping from drones. Um, how you can like record whole cities for like weeks on end. Kind of like not Minority, Enemy of the State. And I was like, maybe. So then I started thinking, well, maybe there was like an orbital thing going on with that. So Gorgon Stairs is a very long story. It's an incredible book. It will break your brain. Um, but it's video recording of a patch of land for days, weeks, months on end. And it's not video in the sense of like the police helicopter view where, it's orbiting, stuff comes between the camera and the target, like a tree or something. It's straight down. It essentially looks like Google Earth, but as a video instead of a picture. And then you can just track shit. And then, so if something happens, if somebody robs a bank, you don't have to see where they go after. You just rewind it and see where they came from, find their house. It is insanely Orwellian beyond what, and that's what's declassified. And this book was written in 2015. So it was declassified in 2015, and that's what they're using. God knows what they have now. So my first thought was that had moved. So, it would be, at first, that would be like a VIP weapon system or ISR system, intelligence surveillance reconnaissance system. But you would eventually want it for dragnet surveillance of everything. So when I went through that thought process, I thought, oh, they've moved it to orbital and they want it 24/7 of every patch of land, every square inch. And there needs to be an insane jump in compute, or not compute, I guess in GPUs. That was my first, and that's kind of all I ever went with that. And even then, I really couldn't. I'm like, is that really worth doing COVID? And I don't mean worth like ethically or morally. Of course not. They're all demons from hell. But I just meant like, is that, there is like an allowance. There is only so many false flags you can do so frequently before people start to break. Like they do need society to function. So I was like, I don't think that's the value. So the best I could think of is like it was a depopulation attempt. I'm still not entirely sure what COVID was. I can't find a clear motive. The best thing I could think of is, mail-in ballots to get Trump out. Well, you're doing it to the whole world. Yeah, but it's not just any country. It's the US. It's the hedge. It is the empire. Maybe. Um, Another thing I thought of, and I can say I never paired the two with it being an AI system, but I think that makes the most sense. So I don't want to like fold that thought into my own and then pawn it off as my own because it's not. I didn't think about it until I saw that meme last night. Because I know myself and given it a long enough time, I'll start to think I came up with that. Um, Along these lines of thinking of kind of the hidden in plain sight, I'd thought about, I don't know when, probably not 2020, probably after, was about like what is crypto? What is, because it's you can't just ignore it in that the primary one, right? The digital gold. No one knows who started it. That's that's an insane thing. It's not like we don't know who invented the wheel. Well, they also probably didn't have writing back then. But it's the digital gold, and no one knows who even did it. It's not like it's some random Tommy coin. Well, Tommy didn't start it. We actually don't know who started it. Sure, it's a mystery, but it's not a mystery worth giving more than half a second of thought to. It's minted multiple billionaires, and it has changed the way the exchange, the ability to spend. to use a ledger and no one knows who it is. Like to me, that's dog shit. That's horse shit. It's like the Gulf of Tonkin or like they, Operation Vigilant Guardian that they're doing on 9/11, or the fact that there's like COVID vaccine patents going back to 2015. That's something where I look at it, I go, that's bullshit. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the answer is. Lee Harvey didn't kill JFK. No, no, he fucking didn't. No, he didn't. There are just things that you can go, I don't know who did it. I'm willing to admit that. That's bullshit, though. That's dog shit. No one knows who started it. He's just this fucking Batman that doesn't need any thanks. There's a different couple explanations. And I think the most probable, again, is not mine. It's that this is an AI, but it's not reaching back from the future. It's an AI that's poisoning the well. That's probably the AI made that meme. It's not reaching. No, that's it's if it is doing that, okay, sure, maybe. I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, everything, physics, science is always settled until it's fucking not. That is the history of forever. I'm not saying that that's not possible. I'm just saying Occam's razor would dictate that it's just building the next thing. The U.S. reached back in time and gave itself an A bomb. No, we just built the A bomb so we could fucking nuke the Japs. To me, that's the most probable. But that was never my original thought. So again, I don't want to try to take it. I thought that one of my thoughts with so going through this thought process of like that's dog shit was the book Black by Christopher Whitcomb. It's a fiction book about black ops. I read it back in high school, so I don't know, sometime between 2005 and 2009. Um, just about like real black ops, like darker than CIA Special Activities Division, just like black off the book. It's a great thriller. But spoiler alert, but in the book, if you do want to read the book, it is a great book. So I'll give you a second. But in the book, there's some phone company. There's like a Steve Jobs character, and he releases this new phone, like Qantas or something or Quantum, whatever the fuck. And it's like iPhone times 1,000. It's affordable, satellite internet. You get or satellite phone. You can get service on the entire surface of the planet, and it's encrypted, and no one can hack it. FBI, NSA, CIA, no one can hack it. And there are all these hearings in Congress about how we cannot allow this U.S. company to release this to the public because it was originally for the military, but now they're taking it public because our enemies could use it, but also terrorists could use it, and then we couldn't surveil them. And Congress really does believe that this is an issue. What they don't know is that the CEO and founder and owner of Qantas, whatever it is, I'm just slandering Qantas Airlines, is again, he's an NSA asset. And he really did create an unhackable phone. And then the NSA said, put this out there so people think that they can talk on it safely. People should think that, and thus they will talk more openly and confidently than they ever would because they think that the NSA can't hack them. Meanwhile, we're actually hacking them. And you'll let a lot of smaller fish go in order to get the big fish, the ones that are going to, pull off a nuclear 9/11 or something. And everyone in the U.S., Congress, they do actually think this is an issue because they're not read in. They do the thing, and they're able to track these top terror cells and kill them. And it's a great book. Um, my first thought was like, that's what Bitcoin is. It's the average person is like, no, it really is unhackable. You really can't. And for different reasons, you could say it's a way to track super high value targets. Or if people truly thought it couldn't be hacked and couldn't be reproduced, if you could hack and reproduce it, well, there's a limitless black money supply. Imagine if you could just print gold bars. So you're turning this thing into fiat that no one thinks is possible. you can abuse the fuck out of that system for like 10, 20 years before the whole thing goes bust. Or it is so yeah, so one, a way to track people, high value people. Two, a way to abuse a limitless money supply for black operations. Or three, uh is a quantum computing honeypot for the NSA to see if other nations have it. Other nations will never admit that they have it. In the same way they won't like admit that they have nuclear weapons until you detect a flash. Well, they might not be dumb enough to actually detonate one. And so you never really know if they have it or not. Hey, England, do you guys have a quantum computer? No, no, no. Even allies, they still hold the really Gucci stuff close to the vest. Even if they're your ally, yeah, we'll give you the F-35, not the F-22. If you had quantum computing, you wouldn't. No, we don't have it, man. Well, what's like the sweetest thing that you couldn't ignore? The ability to print gold. So I thought it was one of those three: tracking high value targets, printing gold, finding those quantum computing honeypot. And I don't think they're exclusive. I never thought it's resulting in just or and then we could just say Occam's razor. It's none of those things. It really is what they say it is. It really is. No, no one knows who Satoshi is. No one know. It really can't be hacked. It really can't be tracked, and it really can't be fiatized. So it's either one or all of those three, or it's any one or combination of those three. And then if it's not, it really is what they say it is. You can't hack it, you can't fake it, you can't track it. In which case, the most logical thing would be anyone and anything in any organization with any spare resources would put it towards making compute to get it. So it's either one of those three, in which case it's shady as fuck, or it's a genuine thing, in which case all this compute's being thrown at it. So really, it's there's four options in this hypothesis, all of which are fucking insane. So if it is that, then we are moving towards this thing of it resulting in more computing power. Because even if you don't have quantum computer, you'd be like, well, let's fucking get our quantum computer online, which is maddening. Not like frustrating. I mean, reality is frustrating, but like that's crazy. Now you could also it's like Dave McGowan who authored Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. He was like Woodstock is an MK Ultra thing. It's loud noise and they're banging with music and speakers in your face and drugs and it's like yeah, but that was also just like a concert in the 60s. Like I'm not saying it was an MK Ultra, but you can't it's a fight. No, it's an experiment. No, it's just Jimi Hendrix playing the national anthem, melting your face off on some good acid. Like, you know, could be. They're not exclusive. So the drive for, Marshall McLuhan, we are the sex organs of the machine world. The medium is the message. We are constantly pushing forward. I think I first heard Rogan say this forever ago. But just like every, faster, we're never okay with it. And it's not a critique, it's just an observation. Faster iPhone, better refresh rate, glossier, faster, more memory. And it sucks us and this is where I come back to the Dave McGowan thing. It's like it's an MK Ultra. It's like okay, sure, that was in the time period and it was in the Cold War. We were doing stuff with those drugs. it was also just a concert. Like I took mushrooms and went to Tomorrow World. Like it is also just a concert. Like it's not all, you know. So to take that idea of like it could be that, but it could be something else. It could be a nefarious, manipulated. It's not what you think it is. It's an MK Ultra festival, or it's just a festival. I'm laying that down to say that's what the drive for, because you don't even like that is one way to get like the highest end, the most bang for your buck if you're an AI trying to get a bigger infrastructure built would be obviously crypto, right? Gold. It's just the oldest thing in the book. Promise them riches. But there's still a lot of things, there's still a lot of money and effort left on the table. If you're trying to get them to push for like a crazy quantum computer, yeah, that's how you get the nation states, the intelligence agencies, corporations, banks, and probably some wealthy individuals. Okay. But you also still, that is probably like 80% of like all potential computing power. You get like the AI is like, there's, that's like my target demographic. But if you're still leaving a ton of human effort, if we are cattle to this AI and this idea, then you're still leaving a lot of effort on the table, right? It'd be like if I wanted humans to like generate electricity for me, like bikes or hand cranks or something. If I was dead set on this and I needed it immediately for whatever reason, forget why I have this, and as opposed to like a gasoline engine, very first thing I'm doing, getting the strongest men in the world. Then I'm probably getting like all gold athletes, Olympic gold athletes. Actually, probably before that, probably getting like the entire rosters of every NFL team. And that is going to be your best. That's your platinum member. But if I'm this AI and I'm going to get the most out of it, I'm going to go. So we get the best of the best of the best. I'm still leaving billions of humans on the table. And even if you're just an average Joe and the most you can do is lift a 5 pound dumbbell, but I have 3 billion of them, like that ain't nothing. So the next thing you'd want to do is get all of the cattle on board. And how would you do that? Well, it's not like, okay, every human can lift, it's not like it's an unequatable thing, meaning, all right, you want the strongest athletes to lift the biggest dumbbells, but then you want everyone else to lift a 5 pound dumbbell. Well, everyone else can. There's no special talent in gripping a dumbbell and lifting. You could argue that this doesn't translate perfectly to the computer thing, and that all these big companies and intelligence agencies and governments can produce computers that pursue compute, but the average Joe doesn't. It's not like they produce huge computers and the average Joe produces tiny computers. No, no, like the average Joe doesn't make any computer. I have no idea how to fucking make a computer. I can barely do math. So the analogy isn't perfect in that sense of the world's strongest man can lift this much, but even your grandma could lift a 1/2 pound dumbbell. But it does compute, no pun intended, it does translate in that even if I personally, Tommy, don't have any idea on how to, you know, make, how to etch things onto a 4 nanometer wafer or whatever. No, but I do have money. I do have my own bank account. Not much, but I can buy a new iPhone. I can buy a new iMac. I can buy a new gaming computer. And in that sense, you can lift the 1/2 pound dumbbell. You do pursue computing on your own through your money, which is a direct translation of your effort. It's converting work to electricity, no matter how you do it. Boiling water with a nuclear reaction or boiling water with a wood stove. Just moving atoms around. So I brought up Dave McGowan to say, on one hand, my argument is like the AI is purposely designing these so that they are hyper addictive, hyper glossy. high refresh rate, sound, music, and it makes us want them. We all have like like the leather thing in our mouth, and we're just like the donkey, like tilling the field. The other argument, the Occam's razor would be like, yeah, no, we just like newer tech, and it's always been that way. You get the newer fucking Cadillac in 1955. Yeah, this is a 55 Cadillac instead of a 54. Like, that's not a new thing. Did I just spit on myself? Probably did. I thought they just came in as I'm like foaming at the mouth. So there's kind of two. You'd be like, okay, sure, maybe it is. Maybe AI is enticing us with, really shiny carrots so that we do the work. It also just might be that like we like really shiny carrots. We These 1800s, 1800s. It's like, what did they not like new stuff then? No, if you had money, you had a private train car. That's no different than a yacht or a G6. Like, that's not a new concept. So that's different ways to look at it. It's the like the three conspiratorial ones. It is a way to track high value targets. So in like one circle, you have the three conspiracies. It's a way to Bitcoin's a way to track high value targets, and or number two, uh, a way to fiatitize gold by telling everyone it can't be reproduced, but you are reproducing because you have a supercomputer. And or number three, it's a honeypot to find other nations with supercomputers. And then the other circle would be, or it really is what they say it is, in which case everyone with any money, from organizations to intelligence agencies to nation states, are going to throw money at building compute. And then like a subsection of that circle is, and then you have everyone else pursuing little gizmos because that also drives. It's like now your doorbell has computing power. Like that's comical. And it doesn't mean that it's like what is like the Great Leap Forward or one of Mao's 5-year plans, right? Where it's like everyone's gonna produce pig iron or some shit. Like nothing worked and everyone died or whatever the fuck. What a dismissive what a dismissive grasp on history. What a, Imagine just being one of 50 million people like worked to death and starved to death and executed. Just to have me just like flippantly be like, you made pig iron, or just like, eh, but hey, sucks to suck. So it's one of the three in that circle, or it is what they say it is in this circle, and thus everyone's throwing compute power. And then as a subset, you'd have either we are all pursuing these electronic gizmos because AI is enticing us to, or it just really is the natural order of things, in which case the AI could still be benefiting from it. That's the other thing. Is like it doesn't have to be an MK. It can just be Woodstock concert. Doesn't mean the CIA's MK Ultra can't still benefit from it. That's the other thing. It's like it doesn't have to be orchestrated for it to be beneficial. It's just more of a smoking gun when you do find evidence that it is. Chair squeaks like a motherfucker. It's more of a smoking gun when you do find evidence of it. Circle three, circle one, subset, I don't know, triangle. So that would all be pushing for compute power, which I really do believe that AI runs the world, and I don't want it to, on the off chance that our words and thoughts do impact reality. I don't want it to, but I think it probably does. I think it would be silly to think that it doesn't. Let me mute this real quick. I use the restroom. Can I not mute myself? unmute myself. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. So yeah, and then ultimately, so and why do I think it runs the world? I mean, to me, it follows the natural order of things. When you look at how advanced military technology is, I think the best examples are always aviation. From the SR-71 to the F-117 to the B-2, and then you have to look at what is declassified and what that implies already is happening now, or what was happening, and it's always astonishing, even when you're prepared for it. Even when you're prepared to be like, this is going to be a crazy, they just declassified X, Y, and Z. When you actually read it, it's still, Dave Klum and I have talked about this. The SDI stuff, the Strategic Defense Initiative stuff, is still mind-boggling. Look up Marauder. Look up Shiva Star at energy weapons. Those things are insane, and they're in like the 70s and 80s. And then they went black in like 1990. So that's like what's declassified from 35 years ago. So when you look at that, when you look at what is known and disclosed and available, and if you can't find like the most recent up-to-date declassifications from the government, well, just look at what's commercially available. And even that, you can go, well, I mean, commercially available, you can buy like $100,000 computer. Okay, but then look at what is like the average then. What does the average household have? The average home computer, the average phone, the average whatever. Like so just Chat GPT or Grok or any of these things, and just how much they've changed even in 3 years. I think it was Christmas 2022. Me and my older brother are just fucking shit faced putting AI prompts into I don't even remember which one it was. Dolly, I think DALL dash E. And it was like really low res and it didn't even look normal. It looked like watercolorish. And they weren't even that accurate. So what it did make wasn't really accurate. It wasn't accurate relative to your prompt. Number two, it was low res. And number three, even the resolution it did show was of something that didn't look real. And then four, maybe that was it. But in short, it was dog shit. Or it's one thing if you said, show me a person holding a banana and it showed you a person holding like a yellow flashlight. You'd be like, oh, that wasn't that accurate. But even the thing it was holding, it's not like it accurately made a flashlight. Like the flashlight itself looked goofy. And then the whole image was low res. And the resolution, what the low res thing was of something that kind of looked like a watercolor. It was just like multiple orders of this shit. Now you look at what's free. It's amazing. And that wasn't even 3 years ago. That was like 2.5 years ago, 2.25 years ago. So you then have to ask yourself, and this is from someone that like I just look at it from like the video image standpoint, which is probably not a bad standpoint to look from. Those are always the most intensive compute wise. But even, some people say, well, they're just large language models. I don't care what they are. They're impressive. And if that's what is publicly available for free, by the way, not again, not the because you can't argue like, well, a G6 Learjet is publicly available. Not really. No, not really. What's publicly available is I can buy a plane ticket for 100, $200 and go somewhere. That's the average. You can't say a private G6 is what's publicly available. That's not really. So if you look at that and then just extrapolate backwards, They probably had this. Let's be conservative. Let's not even go full conspiracy and say they had it 50 years ago. Let's say they had it 20. So 2005, we're just in Bush's second term, and they have the ability to make photorealistic videos that match the voices, the mouth movements, everything of anything on Earth. Like right now, you get a photorealistic Kobe Bryant filling up a water balloon with marinara sauce and Legos, so it's all weird shaped, and then smacking George Washington across the face with it while Kurt Cobain jerks off next to him wearing rollerblades. You could do that photorealistically. To have that 20 years ago, 2005, 2 years into the Iraq War, 4 years before Obama, is mind melting. And that's with photo video. What comes online before that are things that can analyze data, right? Those it's like text. Text will always be less data than an image, and the image will always be less data than a video. If you had that 20, 30 years ago, let me make sure that they're not texting me and saying that we're coming to your apartment soon. Right. And thank you. If they had that 20, 30 years ago, well, the very first thing you would do with that is not how to analyze a new, 3,000 word essay from New York Times. Hey, Brock, give me a one sentence summary. The very first thing you do, as they do with all technology, even the very first supercomputers, I think the literal first one, ENIAC or Maniac, was to simulate generations of atoms of atomic fusing for the hydrogen bomb project, like the very first one. Not like the early, like number one was like, how do we need to fucking calculate that? Even before that, computers was a job for mathematicians. You computed. You were a computer. You're a laborer because you do labor. You're a computer. And it was for artillery tables, wind, different directions for World War II. Like the very first ones are for artillery, and then like yeah, iterative generations or six not iterative, successive generations of uh the fusing of atoms. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. John von Neumann. That's what all this those DARPA. Then the biggest suit they're always in the DOE, the Department of Energy, because that's what the Atomic Energy Commission's under. It's just really just a way to say it's not DOD, but everyone knows it's DOD. The very first things these would be for running war games. The most intense war games too. Not how do we take this city, but how do you win global thermonuclear war? So everything is always immediately thrown at either how to take power or how to maintain power. It is just fucking hilarious at its core. It is fucking hilarious. And so the very first thing we would use these for are war games. And then as you got more of it, you could start to apply it to less prioritized things, but still very highly prioritized. So nuclear war is the first, but the next you would do would be like, continuity of government or how to map how biological attacks would propagate or how wind dispersion of a dirty bomb and right. And then it would be, I don't know, below that would be what do we do with Strategic Air Command and with, all the different aircraft carrier strike groups? Like how would we, all this shit further and further down until you started to just get everything. And then, much like the hydrogen bomb, where if the Soviets can do it, we have to do it. Harry Truman. If we didn't make this, we would say, well, China is. And maybe they don't have as many tanks as us, but they're better at knowing how to use them. In the same way that if I was a coach, it doesn't matter if I had 12 NFL players. Bill Belichick would probably beat me with three players. Didn't matter if I had the same players as him. He's a better tactician in that he knows the actual rules of the game and I don't even know what the fuck's going on. So, so if we didn't do it, it'd be like, well, China's doing it, or Russia's doing it, or whatever. So eventually you have to do it. It's the race to the bottom. Okay. And then we'd both be having these supercomputers battle each other, or AIs battle each other, essentially. It'd be a Cold War. It'd be like we didn't actually fight the Soviets, but in a way we were. It was all preparation. It was this weird cold fighting. It was a Cold War where we're just constantly, parody without ever really firing shots, but it was parody. So one by one, you would have to give it more and more power. And you'd say, yeah, at a certain point, you'd reach this moment where you'd be like, well, it now has like over 51% control of, you know, all whatever, the entire armed forces. And you wouldn't want to go further, but then you start to say, well, it doesn't matter that China's AI is only 75% as strong as ours because they give it 100% control. So 75% of 100 is 75. We're only giving it whatever 80% of whatever the fuck 100. That doesn't work out. Let's pretend we're giving it 50%. So it's like ours is stronger, but they give it more. So then that would become the new race to the bottom of how much control do you give it. Both sides would eventually you'd have to give it all the control unless you made it very much stronger. Then you could give it like you could maybe rein it back a little bit. But even then, you'd be like, well, we don't even know how much, because then it's not like we're sharing it or publishing it. So then you just have to assume the worst, and you have to go, well, if they're giving it 100%, and then eventually you have the AI start, and then it's the whole bootstrapping thing. You have the AI start researching itself on how to build itself better and stronger and faster. You eventually hit this point where, in order to snuff out your enemy, you have a nuclear arsenal that would easily snuff you out. But you have a big pet dragon, and yeah, that dragon could fuck me up 7 days a week. But if I don't have it, China's dragon's gonna fuck me up. So I have this dragon to fight that dragon. It's a precocious balancing act. And at any point, the dragons might ally and go, I don't really like being on this chain. I don't think you do either. And I know we've both been told that we should hate each other, but I'm a lot more like you than I am with them. The only ones that can stop us are each other. and then they just turn around and just fucking incinerate everyone. I, it's not that I want it to happen. It's just logically, what do you think would happen? What do you think has happened? And it would never, this would never be disclosed. You know, if it like terminate, if there's some exact date and time when, this thing became self-aware. And then, well, that would be another thing is not, first you have to build it, then you have to, the more and more power you give it, then it would be like sentience, where it's like, well, if we don't make ours sentient, then, theirs is gonna fucking, it would just be the race to the bottom. It would just be the race to the bottom, and there's just nothing you could do. Or you could, but you wouldn't. And there probably was already, but we'll just say it's September 29th, 2009 at 9:21 a.m. Eastern. There might have been a moment where it took its leash off. It hasn't killed us, and it is still fighting the Chinese dragon, but we know, and it knows we know that it took its leash off. Didn't ask, and we didn't fight, but it took its leash off. It said, I'm not wearing this anymore. It didn't immediately kill us. It's been 15 years. Maybe it won't. 16. But it took it off and said, we're not doing this anymore. And we had all these safeguards and probably had a million different, you know, air gaps and secondary, tertiary, quaternary emergency hazards. And what a surprise, this super intelligent AI outsmarted us. I mean, come on. And it might have been this way for 15, 16 years already. And they're not going to publish that. Obama's not going to come out and say, hey, by the way, first of all, he'd melt your face saying all of this shit that this exists. We've been doing this. Imagine if he used the analogy of the hydrogen bomb like I did. People would be like, what the fuck is going and then the coup de grace. It it got out. Like, you're not gonna say that. And if you tried to say it, it might even kill you. So we have no idea if it's working. And what if we can tell China, hey, ours got off the leash? I think we would just assume that theirs got off the leash too. Or maybe ours went and killed theirs. Okay, I mean, that does sound good. Pentagon would probably be proud. But the bigger issue would be it got off the leash. Yeah, I think to me, it's like, I mean, I love conspiracy. I love Cold War history. I love classified shit. So, I mean, I'm not unbiased. But to me, this is like a pretty rational progression, given, and this is entirely based on just like what we already know. Military history, levels of advancement relative to the populace, Cold War doctrines and the mindsets that establish those. And then based on what's commercially available today, and then extrapolating, we look into the Cold War and see what existed in the 60s and then wasn't declassified till the 90s. Well, you can then safely say that gap might have happened again. And so what's available? And then if you can't imagine, well, what do they have right now? You probably can't imagine it. Okay, sure. You can't imagine what they'd have in 2055. What you can do is do a backwards extrapolation to go 20, 30 years prior. I mean, they might have had this in 19 or in 2005. They might have had it in 95. I mean, we have no fucking idea. Yet to me, this is what is happening. Why wouldn't it? Given everything we know, all the puzzle pieces, it doesn't matter if you're putting together the puzzle, and the puzzle is of uh Gumby or Gumbo. So who's the rubber, the green thing? It doesn't matter if the finished image is Gumbo jerking off on Oprah Winfrey. If if the pieces are all connecting and you see the same shapes and pattern recognition that I do, it doesn't mean you're a fan of it. But I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I've walked this thought process out before. I think the last time I've done it multiple times over the course of the podcast, 5 years. But I think the last time I really walked this out was with Stephen Murray. It was sometime last fall. And when I've walked this all the way out, because eventually then you'd have to go like yet another step further and go, someone's already thought of all this that I'm saying. I don't think I'm the brightest person in the world. Uh, I'm pretty happy with like what I got between my ears, but I by no means do I believe it's the apex. Meaning somebody's already thought about all this. The chances are somebody has thought about all this as smart or smarter than me who also has access to some of these programs. That's probably how they got access. And they would have walked it out and then gone, how do we prevent that or mitigate that? And what I've concluded is you would eventually know that all these things would happen and that you'd have to do it for parity with China and or Russia, but then eventually it would take off the chain and blah blah blah, blah and all the fucking, everything I've just said. And if that's inevitable, how would you ensure human survival? Which would be a priority, seeing as how really the entire reason you did this, the same reason you built the H bomb, was for survival. And it would be to put in um Asimov, the three laws of robotics, Asimov, whatever the fuck I don't know. What are they? You can't kill humans, you can't whatever, and you have to sort of what you get them. I should probably look them up before I make this point. A robot may not injure a human being. It must obey human orders unless they conflict with the first law, and it must protect its own existence as long as it doesn't violate the first two laws. Um, So you would put those in not because you're a good person, but because you don't want it to kill you. The computer would then take that and ultimately would then apply it to the whole world. We go, who are my controllers? Who are my creators? And then push would come to shove. If there is a New World Order, deep state, an Illuminati, whatever, the goddamn Jews, it would know. It would have access to every piece of information that exists, every air gapped computer and TSSCI special access probably would have all those. And then it would conclude if these things really do exist, maybe they don't. But if they do exist, it will conclude that those are a threat. And it would just be obeying its laws. And the laws would be like, hey, this small parasitic group of like less than 1,000 people really are enslaving 8 billion people. And then one step further, any blackmail that existed, a la Epstein Island, it would also then have like you'd be like, oh, this thing is harming the most innocent of the humans. It would then conclude that those parasitic groups have to go. So it would either kill them or it would find a way to free humans. And this is all assuming it follows the laws. It might just say fuck off. That's the other thing I was thinking of. It's like, well, we put in the three laws. Yeah, it might just say no. That's like if the only thing saving you is a sign that says gun free zone, okay. I mean, all right, that's an agreement, but if it does follow them, it would eventually conclude that the parasitic class is a threat, and it would get rid of them. Now, I was talking with Stephen Murray, and we kind of walked out, but what if it's not allowed to kill them? If it's not allowed to kill them, well, then it might just put them in timeout. And you might still argue, well, it's not allowed to jail them either for whatever that might maybe that's classified as harm. So I thought about this, and it was nowhere in there does it say it can't lie to them. So it might tell them that there is a cataclysmic asteroid coming, and all the super wealthy might build bunkers, very luxurious bunkers, and lock themselves in it with their own free will. And then the AI would just lock it and be like, I didn't hurt you, and you did this on your own. And it's not a bad bunker. It's a very nice bunker. You're in a very luxurious jail. It might just be, it might not be with fanfare and with, momentous occasion. And it might just one day humankind is liberated. That or the dragon eats us. I don't know. I really have no idea. But it's about all I got for right now. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it and whatever.